Hello, everybody, and welcome to this vlog. This is going to be the first of at least probably 2 or 3 music-related videos I wanted to do, vlogs, or maybe just specifically entitled about something music-related. But I've been thinking a lot about music here the last few days. Music is a pretty consistent thing in my life anyway. But I will go through phases of when I'm down to listen to a lot of music or open to buying new music as opposed to just listening to the stuff I have on my MP3 player. And it just kind of goes in, spurts, here and there. And the last few days have been filled with a lot of that. I mentioned in my randomness vlog I was talking about some music, some newer music that I was into, and I want to talk more about music in general in a different video. But I decided in this video I was going to do my first ever top 5/top 10 list, only this has now become a top 8 list. It started as a 5, then it went to a 6, and then... Oh, I'm sorry, this is a 7. I'm already miscounting. This is going to be a top 7, my top 7 favorite bands. I could probably eke out 3 more and make a top 10, but I'm not gonna. If I sit around and try to do that, I'll never get this video done. I've had too many problems here lately getting videos done, so I just want to sit down and do this top 7 list, talk about these bands and what they mean to me and all that. And then later on, I'll get into some other stuff. So without further ado, let's get started. And I will count down. This is roughly a list in order, and I will be going from 7 up to my favorite band. But it doesn't make anything lower on the list, worse than anything at the top of the list. Anyway, I think you guys all know how lists work, and most of the time, people don't really differentiate that much between the top and the bottom. So anyway, I wish I had graphics and special editing skills so I could have a screen that comes up here and it says 7 and 6 and 5 and all that crap, but that's not how I am. I don't know how to do that kind of stuff, so we're just going to go with what we've got here. So the band at number 7 is a band that, and I got all these bands pulled up here on Wikipedia so I can at least give you some sort of facts. This is a band that started in 1986, still goes to this day. Their biggest album for me, my favorite album of theirs, came out in 1993. It was entitled Sister Sweetly. I'm going to give you some clues in case you may know this band at all. This is not what I wanted. There we go. Yeah, Sister Sweetly, that was the first album that I got into of theirs in 1993. This was shortly after high school when I was in college. And their song Bittersweet that came off of this album was a big deal. I mean, for me it was awesome. I'm not going to go all the way into the stats about how high on the charts these songs went. But anyway, the band is Big Head Todd and the Monsters, a group that maybe a lot of people haven't heard of, but they're a really awesome band. They are, Wikipedia puts their genre under rock and blues. It's about as good a description as you can get. Or a rock band with heavy blues influences. Blues was not really a music style, a genre that I was really into. But, man, they're a band that made me want to get into it, at least for the sake of their own music. They're just really bluesy rock. It's just, I'm having a hard time really describing it for people. Wish YouTube would let you play the music and let you hear the music on a video without trying to strike you down with content ID and copyright claims. But I would definitely recommend, if you are into rock music, blues type music, check out Big Head Todd and the Monsters. They had a lot of albums out, but the three albums that I was into the most was Sister Sweetly from '93, the follow-up album in 1994 that was called Stratagem, and their album in 1997 called Beautiful World. Apparently they put out a lot of albums since then. So it looks like some live stuff too, but I haven't heard anything new from them since 1997. But those three albums were all amazing, especially Sister Sweetly. That one is just, it's like one of the most perfect 1990s albums that you can find. So anyway, that's Big Head Todd and the Monsters. I guess one special thing I would say about them is they played at the University of Montana when I lived in Montana, and I didn't get to see them. I wish I would have been able to see them live, even just at one time. There's one thing I could say. Well, there's a lot of things in my life that I'm very, very neglected in, woefully so. But seeing bands live is a big one. Now, I'm a big fan of studio recorded album stuff. I don't think, like a lot of people will say, oh, there's nothing quite like seeing or hearing this band or that song live. I don't really care about that. For me, the music is best on the recorded versions, what you get on a CD, what you get in an MP3. But the experience of going to see a band that you love live is what's important there. It's not just the music, it's just seeing them on stage, plying their trade, showing their passion. That's why I wish I could have seen more bands live over the years. Big Head Todd and the Monsters, that's my pick for number 7. The next band on my list now is a lot more recent. This is a band that formed in 2004. They have had 4 albums out. First in 2005, then 2007, then 2009, then 2013. This is a very young person's type of group. So as a guy who's 39 and not really hip and with it, as far as the people who would be into this band, I'm sure a lot of people would say that I'm silly or I'm too old for this, but I don't know. I love them. It's the band is Paramore. I think that they're amazing. They've had a lot of ups and downs over the years. A lot of people have come and go, or who have come and gone from the group. But they're just, to me, an amazing group. Very much a rock alternative, as Wikipedia genreifies them, alternative rock, pop punk, and emo. I can see all of that. They did get a lot more pop on their most recent album, but I think it was great. I think the music is still fun, and it's still something that I can feel when I listen to it. I still feel what Hayley sings about. I can still feel the music that they do. I don't know. It's just, like I said, I feel like I'm woefully underqualified to really talk about a band like this, because everybody in the group is like, Hayley is 25, Jeremy 29. Okay, he's only 10 years younger than me. Taylor's 24. But it's hard for me to explain it. I think the tweens and the teens out there would probably better explain what the music means to them than I can say what it means to me. I love the music. I love a lot of the songs. My favorite song is Here We Go Again from their first album. Now I'm clicking around. All We Know Is Falling, that was their first album. Here We Go Again. That's still my favorite song of theirs, and it's from the first CD that they put out. But everything that they've done is great. They have some other songs that, due to their connections to things in my past, are hard to listen to now. Like when you have a song, your song with somebody, it's kind of hard to listen to that stuff now. But anyway, Paramore is pretty amazing. Riot was the second CD, Brand New Eyes was the third, and then the self-titled album from last year. So anyway, that's number 6 on my list, Paramore. Don't know that I should even try to say anything more about them, since, like I said, I'm making myself feel like an old fuddy-duddy listening to some young person's music, but Paramore is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine, I guess you would say. So then you go from something that's new and young and modern to somebody who is 58 years old himself and has been active since the mid-'80s. And this guy himself performs music that's more from like the 50s. His genres on Wikipedia are listed as rock and roll, rockabilly, roots rock, and surf rock, which pretty much nails anything I would have covered for this particular individual. And he is a singer by the name of Chris Isaak. He is number 5 on my list. I don't even know. I can't even understand sometimes why I love his music so much, because it's such a throwback to an era that I don't really care about. I mean, this is a guy who sometimes looked and kind of patterned his look and his feel with Elvis, and I'm not a big Elvis fan. The rockabilly music and stuff like that, the surf rock music, just from a time that doesn't really interest me. But Chris Isaak is, I don't know, he's just amazing voice, a good-looking fella. Even at 58, he still looks amazing. He's an actor. Occasionally, he had a TV show for a while. And he had a couple of albums and a couple of songs in particular that I loved. My favorite albums would basically be the stretch, his second album, which is self-titled, Chris Isaak, in 86, Heart-Shaped World in 89, San Francisco Days in 93, Forever Blue in 1995, maybe Baja Sessions in 1996. But Heart-Shaped World, I think, is the one that had my favorite song of Chris Isaak, which is called Kings of the Highway. Check that song out sometime. If there's ever a song that just... I'm going to try to explain this, and I know I'm not gonna succeed, but there are songs that are just fun. There are songs that, get your toes tapping. There are songs that get your head bobbing. But they're kind of casual. It's like listening to something or doing something or playing something that's just casual. And then there are the ones that take you away someplace else altogether. They put you in another frame of mind, even if it's not a frame of mind that would even be yours. Like it can take you to another world, a world that you've never been before. Kings of the Highway is one of those. I consider it to be like one of the number one travel songs ever. It's a perfect song to turn on in the car while you're driving. And because it literally makes you feel like you're going somewhere else, like you're traveling away from yourself and to another world. I don't know, like I said, I'm failing at really nailing down what it means to me, but that song is awesome. And the same album had his number one or most famous song, which is Wicked Game, with the awesome video where he's rolling around on the beach with like a topless supermodel. But there's so many great songs on that album and all the other albums that I mentioned before. So Chris Isaak is number 5 on my list. Number 4 on my list is kind of an obscure one. This is a band that started in 1985 and has stopped performing since 2002. Industrial rock, industrial metal, alternative metal, and alternative rock are the genres that Wikipedia lists for them. The band is called Stabbing Westward, and I feel like in the mid-90s is when they had their heyday. the album Wither, Blister, Burn, and Peel, and the follow-up to that one, Darkest Days. Those were my two favorite. They had their first album was called Ungod. I've never heard it. I'd like to listen to it. I'd like to track it down someday. And then they had a self-titled album right around the time that they broke up, in which, like a lot of other bands or artists like Scott Weiland, they put out an album basically when they cleaned themselves up and had found happiness. And I like that album, but the two previous ones were better, much more angsty, much more soulful, much more painful, I guess. Which is just something that I kind of like, especially in that time in my life, but even now. Music that speaks to the darkest parts of your soul, the darkest parts of your mind and your heart. And a lot of alternative rock and industrial music really do it for me when it comes to that. But anyway, my favorite song from Stabbing Westward is on the Darkest Days album. Let me see if I can find this. Here we go. And it's called Waking Up Beside You. It's like, it's the longest track on the album at 6.5 minutes. It's an amazing song. Another one of those like Kings of the Highway where I listen to it and I am in another place altogether. It's not just fun little music. It's not just something to bob your head to. It's like mentally it takes me away to another place. But there's a lot of great songs on that album, and like I said, Wither, Blister, Burn, and Peel, the one before it, had a bunch of songs that are pretty amazing. So Stabbing Westward, probably the one group on this, I'd say even more so than Big Head Todd and the Monsters, although pretty equally, I'd say, probably. But definitely a band that a lot of people haven't heard of. But they should check them out. You should check out Stabbing Westward. I think they're pretty underrated and overlooked and forgotten now since they're not together anymore. That's number 4 on my list, Stabbing Westward. Number 3 on my list is probably, the next 3 are all really popular groups, but I'm sure that this is the most well-known and popular of them, of all 3, and that's U2. I love U2. Wikipedia says they've been active since 1976, so that means since I was 2 years old. But I came upon them in the 80s with, of course, I believe it's got to be their most popular album, and that's the Joshua Tree. The Joshua Tree has my 3 most favorite U2 songs, which is With or Without You, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, and Where the Streets Have No Name. But it also had other great songs, and it was apparently, according to this, 2 other singles, In God's Country and One Tree Hill. But I didn't really pay attention to those songs until years after I'd heard the album. They're pretty amazing too. But U2 has a lot of music out. Just going to try to look at their discography real quick. Boy in 1980, October in 81, War in 83, Unforgettable Fire in 84, Joshua Tree 87, Rattle and Hum 88, Achtung Baby 91, Zooropa 93, Pop 97, All That You Can't Leave Behind 2000, How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb in 04, No Line on the Horizon 2009. I believe from Joshua Tree on, except for Rattle and Hum, I have all those albums. And let's see, All That You Can't Leave Behind, I think, has probably what I would consider to be my favorite YouTube song of all time, even more so than the Joshua Tree songs. And that's a song called, the Joshua Tree songs that I mentioned before. But the song is called Kite. That's another one of those songs that kind of pulls me away from the world and takes me somewhere else. So there'd be a recommendation if you wanted to know a good example of U2 and why I love them. in a single song, it would be the song Kite from the 2000 album All That You Can't Leave Behind. Otherwise, I don't really think that there's much more to say about U2. I think everybody knows how big they are, how charitable they are. I think they're a pretty amazing band. Bono and the rest of the crew are pretty cool. But, like I said, by this point, if you're old enough to know what music is, you probably know about U2, so you have an opinion about them already. But number 3 is U2. So number 2 on my group, on my list here of my top 7 groups or musicians, is another well-known group. Different kind of feel to them than U2. A little bit more of a similar feel to Stabbing Westward in this group. Industrial rock, industrial metal, alternative rock, and dark ambient are the genres listed on Wikipedia. Years active, 1988 to present. This is, I call it a group, but and I know that there's other musicians involved, but it really revolves around the lead singer, the driving force of this group. That gentleman is a guy by the name of Trent Reznor, and the group is, of course, Nine Inch Nails, my second favorite group of all time. I have to tell the story about how I discovered Nine Inch Nails. I didn't know shit about Nine Inch Nails before about 1996 or 1997, when a guy came to work at the store that I worked at in Montana called Shopko. And this guy's name was Brian, and he moved from Utah. He was from a big family, a big Mormon family, but oddly enough, even though all of his siblings were heavily involved in the church and were going out on their missions and going to different countries and stuff, he was very anti-religion of any kind. Isn't that funny how you can have a really big religious family, but there's that one who actually resists against all? I think that just says something about his personality and who he was. He's a really cool guy. For me at the time, being just early into my 20s, him not being that much older than me, he was married, he just moved from another place. He was a little bit of a supervisor type position at our job. And myself and another friend of mine named Todd and Brian, they were really good close friends, but we also had kind of like a little 3-person, little buddy group there that was pretty fun. We got to hang out a lot. And Brian told me a lot about Nine Inch Nails, and he didn't force Nine Inch Nails or any of his musical tastes down my throat, but he was very, very welcoming in if you want to know more about him, I can tell you about him. I can tell you what to listen to. I can lend you some stuff to listen to. And he lent me some Nine Inch Nails, and I don't know, at that time in my life, being out on my own and whatnot, and already dealing with the anxiety issues and stuff, this Nine Inch Nails just really spoke to me in so many ways. It's angry music, it's violent music, and I don't mean talks about violent things. I mean just literally, the music itself is gnarly. It's industrial. Industrial means it sounds like something you would hear in a factory, only it's music. I don't know, it's another genre, and it's another sound, and it's another feel that I can't really explain and do it justice, but it's freaking amazing. And it opened the door for me at that time in my life. It opened the door to so many things. The associated acts include things like Marilyn Manson, someone who I wouldn't have gotten into, I don't think, if I hadn't known about Nine Inch Nails. Pigface, something that I've heard. I'm not too versed on Pigface, but I know who they are. A Perfect Circle, which is a group, kind of a spin-off group of Tool, was another group. I discovered that way. Stabbing Westward, KMFDM, Gravity Kills, so many different groups that I probably never would have been introduced to if I hadn't started basically with Nine Inch Nails. That changed my life. You believe that music can change your life? And I mean, not like if you're a musician. Obviously, it changes your life if you're a musician. But can you believe that a regular person's life can change just because they heard a certain kind of music, a certain song, a certain voice? I know that it's true for me because that's what it did. So from the first album, Pretty Hate Machine, Broken, Downward Spiral, The Fragile, With Teeth, Year Zero, some of the newer stuff that I haven't really heard much of, Ghosts 1 through 4 and The Slip, and then the most recent album, Hesitation Marks, which I don't have. I'm behind on picking up my Nine Inch Nails stuff, but my favorite album is With Teeth. My favorite Nine Inch Nails song, and one of my favorite songs of all time, Every Day Is Exactly the Same. There's another one. Listen to that song. Listen to the lyrics. Because that person that song is about is me. And it's so many other people. And it's so many other things in my life. It's so much. It's just hard to believe. It's like if there was a soundtrack to my life, that would probably be the song that would play at every moment. But there are so many other good songs on that album, and so many other good songs in the entire Nine Inch Nails library. For a while I was collecting them because my friend Brian told me about how every Nine Inch Nails album, I think with the exception of the first, has what's called a Halo number on it, and so you can track official releases, Halo 2, Halo 5, Halo 10, and for a while there I'd been trying to collect them all, but some of them were imports, some of them were really hard to find. I actually got rid of all of my physical CDs for Nine Inch Nails. Everything is digital on this computer and my old one. But Nine Inch Nails, amazing band, but hold on to your butts, folks, if you listen to it, because it is out there and it pushes it. And that's why I love it. That's why Nine Inch Nails is number 2 on my list. And now we get to number 1. And I have to comment right now, I had absolutely no idea this was going to be this long of a video. It is kind of why I didn't want to talk more about music after I did this list. But yeah, this went longer than I expected, so we're going to try and kick it in gear here for the last one. This is a band that started in 1994 and still goes today. This is a band whose one member, the lead singer and main member of this group, used to be a part of one of the most iconic groups of all time. This is alternative rock, post-grunge, hard rock is what Wikipedia puts down for it. I don't know, it's just another amazing group that I really, really love, and a lot of people have probably heard of. Anyway, the group is Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl being the lead singer and basically the founder of the group, who was the drummer for Nirvana, another amazing group. Just wish that they would have. I wish Kurt Cobain was still with us, and they had done some more albums before he took his own life. But we get the Foo Fighters out of it, and Dave Grohl is amazing. He's an amazing singer and musician. He's got a hell of a sense of humor in his videos. Definitely one of the pioneers, I think, of the video format in the 90s, making really fun videos to go along with his music. But for me, Foo Fighters come down to their songs. And they have put out, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 albums, and apparently there's an 8th album in the works. Put out their first album in 1995, which was self-titled Foo Fighters. Then the album that did it all for me, The Color and the Shape in 1997. And then later on, There's Nothing Left to Lose, One by One, In Your Honor, Echo, Silence, Patience and Grace, and Wasting Light. All of which I own, all of which are on my computer, and all of which are loaded with awesome songs. But my favorite song, of course, comes from the album I mentioned before, The Color and the Shape. And it is Everlong, which is just another one of those songs that takes me away. Now, at the time it came out, it was probably the music that really, like the melody that took me away. And now when I listen to it, it takes me back to those days. It's an amazing memory song, like where I hear a song and I remember that time frame in my life, the mid to late 90s. But a bunch of songs on that album were great. Monkey Wrench, My Hero, February Stars, and New Way Home. Probably my favorite songs from that album. And then, of course, There's Nothing Left to Lose. Let's see, Learn to Fly. That was an amazing one with an amazing video. There's all kinds of good songs on that album. I need to go back and listen to more of my old Foo Fighters stuff. On One by One, was this the... No. One by One, Times Like These. That was a great song on that one. I think it was In Your Honor. It was a double disc album. And one was all like electric guitar, kind of like the standard sound, and then the other one was a little more acoustic. And there's an awesome one on the acoustic album called Cold Day in the Sun. Love that song. In Your Honor was a good song. I'm spending a lot of time reading stuff off of Wikipedia. I apologize for that. But I'm refreshing my memory about this. The Echo, Silence, Patience, and Grace had The Pretender and Let It Die. Good stuff. And then Wasting Light was the newest one. And that one had some of my favorite songs off of that one. These Days, Arlandria, I like that one. Rope. I don't know, there's a lot of good ones on that too. But Foo Fighters, it's my favorite band. All the rest of the bands on this list are amazing too. Foo Fighters just has that notch above all the rest of them. It came along at the right time in my life and in my world, to really leave an indelible impression upon me. And so many great songs attached to so many great memories, or just memories in general. Hell, a song can remind me of something painful in my life, and it still has an effect on me. As I mentioned before, there's some Paramore songs I have a hard time listening to because of that, long-distance relationship from a couple years ago, as well as Gavin DeGraw. A whole album of his I can hardly listen to because I remember that when I hear it. My point is that music is extremely important, and I think it sometimes more than words or even images, music can get to the heart of your mind, if that makes any sense. But it can really bring you to your memories. It can really, I don't know. Words are failing me right now, and I can't sing a song to try to make sense of it. But yeah. Anyway, thank you for listening to me talk for a long, long time about my top 7 bands / artists / musicians. I hope you enjoyed it. I will be doing, like I said, another video where I just want to talk about some trends in music today and some things about music today that that I both love and that I'm bothered by, some artists that I like and some artists that I think are horrible examples and role models. I don't expect musicians or whatever to be role models, but in this day and age, people get so much input from music and celebrities that some of the songs out there, they just really piss me off. The kind of things that people want to sing about. But I'll talk about that in another video. And then I have a video I filmed a while back that I decided to hold off on putting it up. But since I'm talking about music, I'll put it out at some point. Basically, I'm talking about my favorite 80s musician. So stay tuned to that, or for that. And I'm rambling, so it's time to shut this down. I'll see you in the next video.